Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music blessing and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Thursday, May 15th, 2025. That's well over 5 years of Torah every single weekday morning, finding each other to say good morning, to learn Torah, to greet each other, to see how we're doing, to support each other as we continue growing. Jennifer and Donna, Kate, Tara, good to see you. Bria, welcome. Karen, let's see who else is here, friends, so we could say good morning to each other. Do some good learning. Linda and Dale, Debbie and Amy, Carl, Jonathan and Barbara. Boker Tov, friends. Hope that you all are doing well. Hi, Cecile. In a second, we're going to take a bracha, take a breath, sing a bracha, learn some Torah, and here we go. Deborah, it's good to see you. Joyce, Karen sending love to Brooklyn. Michelle, welcome, friend. Sharon and Jacqueline, hi Lisa, hi Arlene. All right, Jerry, good to see you too. La 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 da da la 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 ay la la Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam במצוותיו וציוונו לעסוק בדברי תורה, לעסוק בדברי תורה, הפוך בה והפוך בה, לעסוק בדברי Torah. Today, la 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 la. Today, la 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 la. Ay la la. All right, everybody. Good morning. It's good to see all of you. There might be a chance that today is broadcast 1305. It might be 1304, but either way, that's a lot. Penny, thanks for making sure that we keep on track. It is also day 587 since October 7th. We are in a world where counting like that is incredibly weighty. We make sure that we mark each moment, and because of what we've been through and what so many of us are still going through, especially the families of the remaining 58 hostages in Gaza, we are going to count every day, as we have for way too long, since their loved ones were in their arms, and since the world changed for all of us. I also want to call to mind a woman whose name was Sila Gez. If you have not yet learned her name, she was traveling to the hospital while in labor. Her husband was driving, she was in the car, and there was a shooting attack in Israel near their community, and she was shot and killed. The baby was delivered by emergency cesarean, and we are praying that the baby survives. The husband was injured, and this tells us that the fight is not over, and it isn't only located in one part of our home. And so may the memory of Tzila Gez be forever blessed. May we speak her name and remember her story. May her family somehow heal. May the baby live. I know that that's a heavy way to begin, but that's where we are. And we do not only tell the good parts of our story, we hold our family when we go through what we go through. That's what our community has done since the very outset of our learning together more than 5 years ago. I also wanted to mention another person. This one is in a more positive direction, I hope. Yuval Raphael is representing Israel at the Eurovision Song Competition today. We have the chance actually to vote. If you look closely and you look up her name, you can find places where you can click and vote for her. Yuval Raphael survived the Nova massacre. She has an extraordinary voice and had tremendous presence. She's really something to behold when she performs. And I hope that you will make sure to find a watch party for Eurovision and that you will vote for our hero, Yuval Raphael. May she sing with power and grace and dignity in the face of a lot of booing and hatred because she represents the Jewish state. Her glory is our glory, and our strength should be hers. It's Parshat Emor, and we've spoken about different aspects of it throughout this week. I want to bring in one more that's a little bit difficult to talk about. It's chapter 21 of the book of Leviticus. Now, the context is important here. Emor comes right after Kedoshim. And Kedoshim is famous for including chapter 19 of Vayikra, of Leviticus, which is the holiness code. Kedoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. And that is directed to the whole people. But it's focused, as is the entire book of Vayikra, on the priests who are from the tribe of Levi. The priests are called to a more rigid way of life. Eventually, when we will settle the land after the Torah itself is done, the tribe of Levi does not inherit tribal property the way the other tribes do. Instead, we take care of the tribe because they are the intercessors with God. They all serve either as Levites to serve the Kohanim, the priests, who themselves bring the sacrifices to God, and we bring tithes to support them. In a certain sense, they are the institutions of the state, our nation, as it emerges. How extraordinary then to see that the Torah really focuses on their qualifications. Now, not to attain this privileged status, they themselves, friends, are in this privileged status because of who their father is. You become a Kohen because your father is. It's a patrilineal descent that determines that status. And throughout the book of Vayikra, many things are directed only to the Kohanim. This is a section that I'm about to read which describes the physical requirements to be a Kohen who can serve. And I share it with you. It's not really a trigger warning that I'm offering, but this is going to be difficult to hear. God spoke further to Moses. This is chapter 21, verse 17 of the book of Vayikra. Speak to Aaron and say, no man of your offspring, and because the Kohanim in the Torah's time were only men, we'll leave this here. But you have to understand, as I'm sure is clear to anyone who studied Torah, that it represents a patriarchal notion of society. Men are addressed. Everyone else might sometimes be included. So I'm not going to retranslate and degender this text. You'll see why in a moment too. No man of your offspring throughout the ages who has a defect shall be qualified to offer the food of his God. Offering the food of means brings sacrifice. Okay? And it's interesting to think about sacrifice as God's food. God in the Torah does not eat, but God does experience the smell of the smoke and the smell of the incense. Again, good conversation for another time. But here's the hard part. No one at all who has a defect, a physical difference, shall be qualified. No man who is blind or lame, or has a limb too short or too long. No man who has a broken leg or a broken arm, or whose back is hunched or is very small. This translation uses the word dwarf. I wouldn't use that language other than reading it as the translation here. or who has a growth in his eye, or who has a boil scar, or scurvy, or crushed testes. No man among the offspring of Aaron the priest who has a defect shall be qualified to offer God's offering by fire. I share this text not because I want to affirm its limitations, but it is important for us to know that the Torah in this section is very complicated, because what does defect mean and why would it preclude someone from serving? And if you look at some of them and not all of them, maybe you'll have an answer, but in aggregate, you take all of these differences, someone whose one leg is too long, or has a broken arm, or is blind, and it is something that we must think about, we must look at, and we must address. Because though modern notions of ableism feel very modern, I hope that the rabbis of antiquity were uncomfortable with these limitations. There are great and very detailed conversations in the Talmud about what each of these things means. But what does the idea on the 10,000 foot perspective, what does it mean that we think someone who serves God intimately has to have a specific kind of body? Obviously in the Torah, it also means only men. We can address all of this. We should. But I turn in this question, this pivotal question about who is qualified to serve as a leader of people. Because the Torah, after all, is not talking only about priests. The priests in those days, as I described, the camp and the tribes and the land, that is the leadership of the people. And offering sacrifices is the ritual of the nation. And so anyone who serves in a leadership role for a nation fits this conversation. What are the qualifications? What does it mean when someone's body works differently? I turn to one of my rabbis. She is a tremendous voice for you to explore yourself, Rabbi Lauren Touchman, who is a rabbi ordained by JTS. She writes a piece commenting on this, and I want to share some of what she writes. She wrote, "I wish to boldly wrestle with Leviticus 21, our chapter, and I do so from my perspective as a blind rabbi, for whom this passage is at once profoundly painful and a call for change. I do not claim to know the experiences of anyone for whom the above categories are relevant other than my own, and speak for myself." And she offers different categories of people who have truly struggled. Listen to what she says. "Our sacred texts continue to be used as weapons of exclusion. Last week's two parshas clearly do that when it comes to the question of LGBTQ inclusion in our communities." Then Rabbi Touchman writes, "Those of us who are seeking to carry the mantle of sacred leadership forward have the responsibility to wrestle." Oh, thank you, Rabbi Lauren Tuckman. I said her name wrong. Thank you. Thanks, Joyce. "Those of us who are seeking to carry the mantle of sacred leadership forward have the responsibility to wrestle authentically with this text, teach it with immense sensitivity, and be there with and for those in our communities who are grappling with the pain of it in the most visceral of ways. We are losing so much Torah when we fail to do so." And so, friends, I want to turn to you for a moment and ask you just to consider for yourself, what does it mean for you when you envision someone who will lead the community? And that can be our religious community, it can be a country, it can be any place where a leader serves. What does it mean to envision their abilities? Does their body have to work in one way? Or is it important for us to respond to the Torah and say, your notion of bodily perfection, that's not what leadership looks like. I remember recently being in a davening space where the chazan was surrounded by a lot of people in the middle of the sanctuary who were all singing. Some were old, some were young, some were leaning for support because it was during Hallel, it was a long section for standing. Some were in wheelchairs, and all were equal in leadership. And Rabbi Tuckman herself is a blind rabbi. Yes, Rose, as you say, it was of the time and culture. Yes. That's true. But the Torah continues to speak to our time. We learn it every day. And when we learn it, there are times where we channel it and move it forward, and there are times where we confront it so that we can move forward holding it, teaching Torah itself by recognizing that we embody its values, and we must sometimes challenge them in its own name. Living a Torah life is living on a trajectory towards holiness, and Rabbi Tuckman's voice is a continuation of Torah by engaging in the conversation. She writes not rejecting the Parsha, she writes a comment on the Parsha. She writes here, "We live in a world in which those of us who find ourselves on the social margins are not seen as equally trustworthy, equally competent. The converse of this is that far too many leaders feel that they must hide an essential aspect of themselves for fear of losing the position they have worked so hard for, or because they feel stigma. Think about mental illness. This is the case with a tremendous teacher of mine, Rabbi Eli Spitz, who himself, a revered rabbi of a community in California, struggled mightily with mental illness and wrote a book about it, praising his community for helping him heal and grow, and he served as a beloved leader for decades. The book by Rabbi Eli Spitz is called To Heal from Despair. I recommend his book as a model of vulnerable leader, which is clearly not something the Torah is emphasizing when it comes to the Kohanim, the priests. And we must remember not only that Torah should never be weaponized to dehumanize anyone, but also that we have a way, we have the capacity, we have the responsibility, and Torah in its largest sense, I think, commands us to take responsibility for the direction that it continues to live, so that we can continue to live. People in our community, beloved members of our community, might still feel marginalized because of notions of worthiness and physical whatever. But I know that Torah continues to grow, and it will only continue to grow if we all are part of leading the way. I'm grateful that Rabbi Tuckman took the time, first of all, to become Rabbi Tuckman. What a glorious thing it is to have different kinds of rabbis to learn from. And I offer her ending here so that we can really think about it. When reading or teaching Leviticus 21, she says, "Don't shirk it off and pat yourself on the back for the fact that times have changed. Ask hard questions. In what ways is this text still so relevant to our current society? Do we truly value the divine spark that is within each of us, as Genesis teaches us, or do we seek perfection in those who lead us? How do we silence those who are different, subtly and explicitly, because their stories and experiences, their truths make us uncomfortable? May we continue the ceaseless process of undoing the barriers that preclude so many from being their authentic selves. May the day come speedily in which the inherent dignity and worth of everyone is sacrosanct." Amen. Amen, friends. There are those in positions of influence today who still hold up models that are very narrow as qualifications for leadership. This Parsha and that Rabbi Tuckman, call us to be much more thoughtful in the way that we select our leaders, in the way that we consider whether or not we could serve as leaders, because none of us, not our bodies and not our minds, always work perfectly. But we are all created in the image of God, all worthy of the chance to lead, and certainly deserving of communal respect. The world will be a better place when we can see the gifts that every individual is inherently qualified to bring. So I invite us, friends, to remember, to hold, to pray for our 58 beloveds. Let's send our hearts to the east. Let's sing. Kolon v'levav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia Od lo avda tikvateinu hatikva bat shnot alpayim liot am chofshi be'artzeinu Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim liot am chofshi be'artzeinu Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends. Don't forget to vote for Yuval.